So, the Miami Grand Prix, it's coming to Formula One in the year 2022 with all the brand new regulations and all that monetary change that happened. I think it's going to be a great track, and that's what we're going to talk about today is everything that you need to know about the Miami Grand Prix. So to kick things off, I'm going to start with a little bit of the history of the Miami Grand Prix and how they've tried to get this track into Formula One for quite some time now. They actually tried it in two different layouts on the Biscayne Bay. And overall, I mean, they look pretty interesting. They have that really long straight across the bridge, which I'm sure would need some modifications and some strong barriers to make sure that any cars couldn't have severe accidents there. But eventually it got denied by local opposition, so the track organizers had to move and find a new location. That led them to their now current and more permanent home around the Hard Rock Stadium that the Miami Dolphins play at. But now that we know its brief history, we're going to go ahead and go on to the track. This is everything that you guys want to know. This is all the information you're probably here for anyways. So, first of all, the track's composed of 19 corners and 3 main straights. Now, just from looking at the track, it already looks beautiful, and I think it is perfect for competitive racing and bringing some new spice into the sport for 2022, along with the brand new regulations, which, might I add, they specifically designed this track for those regulations, meaning that the track will better suit close cars and close racing. So all these chicanes and turns will be perfect for overtaking opportunities for cars to take advantage of, if you will. And speaking of regulations, one of the regulations that is staying in 2022 will be the DRS option. DRS, or drag reduction system, is the flap that opens, if you didn't know, which allows them to increase speed or possibly overtake on main straights. And in my opinion, on this track, I don't think they will do more than 2 DRS zones. Some tracks have 3, some tracks have 1, but I think they're going to go with 2. There are 2 main positions that I feel are most compatible with DRS. First of all, the top location, the longest straight of the track, right after turn 16 and then into 17, that long straight at the very top of the track, that is most definitely gonna have to be a DRS zone. I mean, it's just perfect, just by the looks of it. You already know that the cars right after turn 16 are gonna come down that straight and have plenty of time to get that pace back and catch up to the next car to finally make their next turn on turn 17, which is where grandstands are and a lot of action is. So I think that was well planned out and obviously meant for DRS. Now, the second location that DRS I think will be enabled will not actually be on the starting straight. I think it will be right after turn 10 or possibly even on turn 10. We'll see exactly how sharp that turn is. And then it will end on turn 11. So right there at the bottom of the track, basically on the opposite side of the first DRS zone, I feel is the most likely second location. Now, obviously, they can do a DRS zone on the main straight. I just don't think it's likely, especially right after that DRS zone that I'm pretty much sure is going to happen right after turn 16 and then on to 17. There's going to be a lot of action that's happening there, and it just doesn't seem right for them to throw another DRS zone 3 turns right after they already had one. So I think they're going to put one at the top and one at the bottom. So now we're going to move away from the straights and onto the corners. Now, there's a lot of interesting corners here on this track. The first one I noticed is the one used in the track art that was released a little while ago. Pretty much about a year ago, they released this kind of art showing turns 17, 18, and 19 practically. The turns just before the starting straight. The color scheme is just amazing, and I noticed that right away. I'm like, that is the corner I saw in that image, and it looks just as beautiful top down as it will from the side. So the next set of corners I noticed automatically was from turns 3 into 9. I know that's a lot of corners that I just kind of noticed. But these corners specifically make up a relatable part of the track, and this relates to the Japanese Grand Prix. As some of you may have recognized or heard from other YouTubers or news outlets, it looks very similar, and I like this part of the track because they took something that they know works and they put it into a brand new track with a new layout, and they're just kind of playing around with different parts from different tracks because, as mentioned, this track was specially designed by professionals working for Formula One to fit the new regulations, like I said previously. So they took what they know works and put it into this brand new track here in the USA. And then finally, the final set of corners that I automatically saw and was getting really hyped about was actually the chicane on turns 14 and 15. So this chicane, what I've learned about it is that it's actually the main elevation change that you're going to notice. So the elevation changes from turns 13 to 16. So basically, the chicane is right smack dab in the middle of where all the elevation change is noticeable. So there'll be like a little uphill or downhill, I'm not really sure at the moment, around that chicane. And also what I've learned is that chicane is supposedly going to have high corners, which means there's going to be a lot of tight squeezing and stuff around that corner and making racing there just pretty interesting. And maybe we'll even have like little accents there or like cars falling off track. I don't know. I think those high corner chicanes can make for some interesting racing. Obviously they can be annoying for drivers, but I think overall for a viewing experience, having that high chicane and making sure those drivers do not cut the corner and fit within the set boundaries, I think it's just a good little addition. And we'll have to see how it holds up when racing starts there. So yes, that brings me to my next point of general track information, such as how long it's going to be here, what it's going to replace, and when exactly the race will be. Now that we've gotten past the straights, the corners, all the things of note to that. So to get into it, we're going to start off with how long it will be here. So the Miami Grand Prix, the directors and Formula One already signed a deal confirming that the Miami Grand Prix would be staying in Formula One for the next 10 years. So get used to it. I hope you like it, and I hope it brings good racing because, man, it's going to be here a long time. So when will the Miami Grand Prix be? Well, it's been speculated that it's going to place itself around the Canadian Grand Prix. So whether they decide to go earlier or if they decide to do it later, it's pretty hard to take a guess at this kind of stuff. I would have honestly guessed it to be later in the season because Miami is pretty close to the equator and it can get pretty hot down there at times, which could possibly affect the track. I don't know if that would become an issue at all. But yeah, that's the time that has been speculated. Now, speaking of Canada, Miami Grand Prix has to replace some sort of track. It's already been confirmed that they are not going up to 24 tracks. They want to stay at 23 for the time being. So that means they're going to have to remove a certain track. Now, sadly, it's unlikely they're going to remove any of the tracks that most of the fans or even race drivers dislike, such as Sochi or Abu Dhabi. It's just highly unlikely. They pay way too much to have their spot there, and Formula One does not want to lose that kind of money. I mean, who would? So they're probably going to have to select some sort of track that we already like that just doesn't pay as much. And rumors have been floating around that it would be replacing the Canadian Grand Prix. And to lose another North American track just to gain another in the USA, you know, it just doesn't seem right to just take the Canadian race out. But that may be the way it is, and we're gonna have to see if it could make a return if that is the track that happens to go. And my final kind of point of touching on that I felt was important is why they're doing this. Why are they coming to the Americas? Why have they brought another second track to the USA? Well, I think the main reason is because racing is so popular here already with NASCAR and with IndyCar and many other sports related to that field. So there's obviously a market here in the US, and Formula One has just not caught the attention that it really deserves, to be honest with you. So they're branching out here, giving us another race, another chance to watch Formula One racing in our home country of USA, to hopefully expand the fans that they have here and to gain money. I mean, there is so much money to be made here in the US with all this racing. Anyways, that's all I have for today. Let me know what you guys think of the Miami Grand Prix. Are you excited for it, that it's finally here, or does something concern you about it? If you liked the video, please share it with your friends. And consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell so you always know when some more F1 content is coming your way. I'm Ryan Anderson, and I wish you all the best. Later.